Hello and welcome to Act Now. I'm Julianna Forlano. Today on the show, I'm very excited and very happy because we are doing the headlines with Josh Holland, host of We've Got Issues. And boy, do we have issues. We're going to be covering, aliens. That should be fun. But also we're going to be really covering the fact that the Democratic voters, according to Ryan Grimm, delivered a stinging rebuke to the party's Mansion cinema wing. But is that really in primaries? Sure, you're just voting against other Democrats. But is that going to help us at all when we get to the actual contests? I can't wait to introduce. Coming up in the headlines is going to be Josh Holland. We're going to talk about that and a few more other interesting things. And I am going to skirt the topic of talking about infant formula as much as I can, because I think it might be all talked out, but it's almost impossible to avoid that subject. So stick with us. We're going to have a great segment. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Hi, Juliana. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I am very happy that you are an intelligent person and not an academic, because we always have
I try.
You're allowed to say stuff. Your students.
Nice to be back. It's been a while. Been too long. Yeah.
Your students aren't going to come out and be like, I saw you on the interview at act.tv and I disagree. And so now we're going to destroy your career. And that's why you have to stay tight-lipped and not very fun at all. So
this is a very specific gripe you have today, Juliana.
It is. I don't know. I got cranky after 3.
I've been cranky for 6 years now, so I can't blame you.
Well, there's a lot to be cranky about.
Yes.
All right. So we were talking about a couple of articles that were out talking about the recent primaries that happened. Ryan Grimm from The Intercept said that the Democratic voters delivered what he called a stinging rebuke to the party's Mansion cinema wing. Would you agree with that, a characterization of what happened a few nights ago?
Look, progressives had some good wins. I think that these kind of compartmentalizations are a little overly broad. And I think that, the thing that often gets obscured is that both parties tend to protect.
Wait, hold on, Josh. I feel like the aliens are interfering with your signal. Can you take out your headphones? Maybe it's the headphones. We'll just go straight raw, you yelling at your laptop screen.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure. That's a little better. It's not cutting up.
All right. I'm sorry about that. So I'm not accustomed to this. This is a weird interface, because when I do my show, I always have the headphones. So yeah.
It is still weirdly cutting up. What do we do, Giancarlo? Hold on. We got a man in the background who's going to fix the problem.
Okay.
Or not. I don't know. Hey, Josh, can you go out and come back in? That helps a lot sometimes.
Let me leave and come back in.
And while you're gone, I'm going to take the Nintendo cartridge and just blow on it, because that is how does anyone know what I'm talking about? That's how we used to reset our Nintendos. Does anyone know what a Nintendo is? Why don't you try guessing my age in the comments section while Josh goes out and comes back in? Anyway, Ryan Grimm said that voters shrugged off an obscene amount of spending from super-PACs that basically was sending a message to Democrats telling us to do something. Josh is back. Okay. Now you talk.
Can you hear me? How's the audio?
It's better.
Test 1 2 3.
Better.
Okay.
Josh, you should put your headphones on too, so we don't get feedback.
Yeah, now you got to put your headphones back on.
Make up your
mind.
mind.
And then we're going to watch you change your clothes, and that's going to be the show for today. I don't care.
All right.
Maybe other people are feeling like I am, but like a little bit of absurdity is very necessary in this political moment right now. I mean,
okay. How is it sounding?
So much better. It's completely fixed.
Okay, I've repaired it. I'm my own tech department here. I'm the IT guy.
Yeah.
So
that's what you have to do as a media person. Anyway, we were talking about what are your thoughts about the Democratic what happened on
So I mean, I think that this is just a very, very popular storyline, right? There's the insurgents, the outsiders versus the establishment, and I don't, I think it's overblown. I think that both parties are, in the business of defending their incumbents. The area where it infuriates me is when they defend the worst among their caucus. So we've got a guy out in Texas, Henry Cuellar. He's opposed to abortion rights.
Right.
He's being investigated. Perhaps we're not exactly sure why the FBI raided both his home and his office, but it seems like it is related to his lobbying work for an oil-rich foreign government. He's extremely right-wing for a Democrat. And, you've got Democratic leadership, basically defending him against a good primary challenger, Jessica Cisneros. And that's even in the wake of the leak of Alito's decision soon to be overturning Roe v. Wade. So, I mean, that's just the real tone-deaf stuff. I guess he's, I guess we're talking about Fetterman winning over Connor Lamb. I think that's less about ideology than style, right? I mean, Lamb is just a very generic, like some people say he might have been grown in a lab. It's possible.
Well, there are aliens among us now, so he could be one of those.
And here's Fetterman, the dude wears shorts in the winter. He's ginormous and just seems like a guy you want to have a beer with. We've met him, right?
Shorts in the winter guy. Met him at every college campus had shorts in the winter guy. Every single one.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't like cold. I'm sensitive to cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think much is being made? I mean, I've heard so they were making a lot about the person who is running against Ron Paul, right? Charles Booker in Kentucky. First, he tried to
Rand Paul, yeah.
Oh, Rand Paul. Sorry, it's all the run together in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those races where Rand Paul is going to win that race, and progressives are going to sink a ton of money into Booker's campaign. All of that money is going to be wasted, essentially. And then, there's like the possibility of flipping a state house in Wisconsin, for example, that could potentially be the difference between Trump stealing an election in 2024 or not. And those local races are very, very much winnable with some resources. So there's a mismatch between progressive donors and the races that they're focused on. And, why would you donate to the challenger for Marge Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That woman makes my head explode. So
she's hideous. Yeah, I can't even say her name
out of her
Jesus.
mouth.
Yeah, but she's in an extraordinarily safe seat. A Democrat isn't going to win that seat. I mean, why would you even waste your money on that? And I believe that we should have somebody running in all in every competitive race, certainly, but you do have to prioritize a finite amount of resources. And as for this whole schism between the intra-party intrigue, I used to care a lot about that, and now I don't give a damn because I'm so terrified about the future of this country. And I know that there's people in the audience who are saying, well, if we nominate better candidates, we have a better chance. I just don't believe that people vote on the basis of ideology. I don't think people vote, I'm a progressive and I'm going to vote for the progressive, or I'm a centrist, I'm going to vote for that. I don't think that's the way people operate. So, candidate quality is important, but, the fact that you're more progressive or less progressive, that alone does not move votes, I don't think.
In the primaries, it does. right? And then it becomes Republican versus Democrat. So the primaries are really what's important if you're a progressive and you want to move a progressive forward. I think in the case of Charlie Booker, he ran against Amy McGrath. In a primary, she won. She had the support of the establishment, and she was very lackluster. And the establishment, I think, supported her because, they thought maybe she could win against Mitch McConnell because she was in the Navy or the Air Force.
Air Force, yeah.
She was in one of those forces. So they thought maybe she had a chance. And I feel like we just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. The idea was Booker could have actually won against McConnell. Now, I don't know how true that is, but
I don't think that's true. I mean, Mitch McConnell not only is it a very R-leaning state, but he's been the leader of their party for a long time, since 2006, I believe. And he delivers a lot of bacon to his constituents. He does a lot of constituent services. That nobody was going to, no Democrat was going to beat Mitch McConnell. And I think it's pretty much the same with Rand Paul.
I mean, with Charles Booker, it seems like his name recognition is out there. And even knowing that he might not win, his name recognition, is it's big now. So he could
I like Booker too. Yeah, I like Booker.
Yeah.
Just, again, you got to prioritize things. We tend to donate to and support candidates based on how much their opponents infuriate us. And I get that, but that's not going to save this democracy.
Yeah, well, to me, the democracy is almost, there's assumptions, right? We want to save this democracy from the forces of reactionaries, and we want to save it from, irrational ways of being. And yet our side, who is supposed to be more rational, is doing the exact same thing. We are, voting, like you said, we're shunting resources into parties that are not likely to win. We're not really focused on where the actual levers of power are, even if they're, they seem smaller. We're just as bad, even though our intentions are in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at someone like Steve Bannon, he understands that you can win a lot of power in state and local races. He wants to storm every school board and every town council, and we just don't think that way. We're very focused on presidential elections. We're only starting to really pay attention to the courts, even at this late date.
Yeah, at this late start. The courts.
Yeah.
Courts. State elections might be important to look at. How interesting. Local politics might have something to do with national.
I mean, maybe we should control, the election infrastructure if we are facing an insurrectionist party that attempted a coup less than 2 years ago.
How about campaign finance reform? I often make if we did campaign finance reform, the rest would fall into place, because then you would have more of a democracy. And,
I mean, I don't know that there's any campaign finance reform that this court wouldn't strike down.
Yeah, it's too late now for my.
They just gave Ted Cruz a big win, and made it basically legal to buy off candidates by repaying their debts after they win office. So who won, and you can just give them a boatload of cash when they come into office.
Damn. So you have to win. So you could take out a massive loan, but you'd have to win to get that paid back.
Well,
I'm just thinking
you wouldn't have to win according to the law, but according to donors, right, to have an interest in buying power, they want to back the winner. So they get to wait to see who wins and then drive up with a bundle of cash and give it to them.
All right.
This was a very modest law, right? This was a law that was part of McCain-Feingold. Used to have a lot of bipartisan support, and they've just been chipping away at it. So
I know that the sound is kind of staticky, but you're still worth it. So we're just going to keep rolling.
Okay, I'm sorry about the audio. So actually, my laptop died this week, so I'm on my iPad, and I think that's the problem.
Oh yeah, could be an internet I think it's a connectivity issue. That's what I'm hearing from the people behind, but it's, you know,
I'm sorry about that.
Your iPad died. That might be, you know, the universe giving you a further impetus to be like, you know what?
I just need to get out of this business.
Well, you know, you're not the first person who I've spoken to who's been at, you know, this fight for so long and coming up against these massive odds. I mean, we were talking before about how I did an interview with someone, which you viewers will see in a couple of weeks, about civil discourse. And I was like, I think you're wrong because there are no spaces left for civil discourse, except for, of course, on my show. And I just, you know, you have been at this and have seen the writing on the wall. And I think some other folks, not to get too personal on this interview here, we were going to talk about breast milk, I guess, or whatever.
That's personal.
That's fairly personal. But I have you noticed that your, you know, compatriots are also feeling sort of this same sense of, you know, dire, like there's no winning. There's no, I hate to be this person because I still think we should get out there and protest and vote or whatever.
Yeah,
but
sure.
We're like locked in on a lot of the sides.
I mean, we're walking a very, very fine line here, because I think it's important to raise the alarm about what's happening, and then you have to do so without demoralizing people. So, you know, I am not hopeless. I think we're, you know, a couple of Senate seats perhaps away from doing some of the things that need to be done structurally. I would like to see, you know, we'll see how the next 2 years are going to play out. It's a monumentally important juncture in our country's history, and we don't know that we're going to survive as a democratic republic or not. So, but there's a lot more of us than there are of them. We have a fairly deeply ingrained political culture that is democratic, a fairly entrenched democratic political culture. The opposition is powerful. You know, the democratic opposition is powerful, has a lot of lawyers, a lot of resources. So, you know, we don't have an authoritarian government yet.
I spoke with one other guest who said, you know, you've gone complete fascist when they start shooting protesters in the street, like officially. Not like, oh, it was an accident, Kent State, or, you know, oh, we sent in people who aren't official from the government to make a mess, you know, those kind of things when they're
I mean, when was the Kent State massacre? 72?
Yeah. Yes, it was before I was actually born. All right, so let's talk about I mean, now that I got you here, I said at the beginning we were not going to talk about.
Promised.
I did promise, but there is one thing that I would like to discuss about this, and it has to do with the lack of the Democrats and the lack of the ability to even get the story of what is actually happening across to the American people.
I mean, this is true of so many issues. It really is. There's just a gross asymmetry in messaging.
So to give a little bit of background here, and correct me if I'm wrong, President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act so that we would have I keep saying breast milk, like we're going to get to pump it. You know what I mean? Domestic food. It's formula, infant formula. You know, so that babies won't die while we can figure out this Michigas, right? He invoked that. That seems to me to be an excellent idea while we figure out this problem, whatever's going on.
They also they did the Defense Production Act, and then they also issued an executive order that allows importation of some of the stuff that was problematic. Right.
Yeah. By the way, if I were you, I would go out and get the imported one, especially if it's from Europe, because it doesn't have a lot of the same crap that the one that's made here is, so that they can buffer their profit margin, because in Europe they have rules and laws that protect consumers. But anyway, with that said, so Biden's out there doing this, and the right which is what's getting all the coverage is this right-wing bullshit that, now Biden's a socialist, or now, he didn't do it. He's not doing anything. All of this, they're having a press conference, which gets full coverage that is basically saying this lie is the truth. And it's all everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It used to be that, they invested a lot in conservative media and alternative media in the hopes of influencing mainstream coverage. And the propaganda network that they've ended up creating is so sprawling, and the hectoring of the legacy media, the working the refs, as they say, so effective that at this point it's it has more influence than the legacy media at this point. I think the alternative conservative media, it's just their ability to call the game, to say, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, look at the best example in recent months is their reactions to, Alito's draft, right? So first they wanted to talk about the leak. So everybody talked about the leak, right? And they weren't talking about the substance of it. And then they were like, oh, look, people are protesting outside Supreme Court justices' homes, and somehow that's bad.
Yeah.
Like peaceful protests are somehow bad. And then everybody
because
was like,
they're
oh, no.
right-wingers, and they think that protests involve bringing a gallows and trying to
AR-15s.
Nancy
Yeah,
Pelosi.
you're right.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And that is the state in which we find ourselves.
Yeah. Let's talk aliens.
Let's talk aliens. Actually, I just got Seth Shostak from the SETI Institute, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's not some weird place. This is like, from the University of California at Berkeley, where they have the big, whatever that thing is, radar, I don't know, sonar that can go all the way out in space. And I'm like, can you come on the show? And he said, this is actually, I've been on 8 interviews. I'm happy to come on your show as well to discuss this enormous nothing burger. It is an enormous nothing burger, but would you put money on the fact that more people are paying attention to this than will be paying attention to the January 6th public hearings that will be happening soon?
Oh, God. Oh, that's a depressing thought. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's probably the case. What do you think it is? What do you think these things are?
I don't know, dude. It would be like, you're insane if you're like, perhaps it is aliens. But we are so desperate for some sort of solution that even a 0.4% possibility that these are nice aliens who are coming to stop our nuclear annihilation is enough for me to be like, maybe it is.
Maybe it's an alien. Yeah, I have to say it's not a really impressive photograph, is it?
No.
Or did you see the video?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's a speck and it just passes by the window of a plane. And they're all kind of like that. It's like, oh, here's a little white squibby thing, and
they're like, oh, it's a high flying goose. Forget it. It's like somebody's watch reflection, like they were.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the fact that they're doing these public things, doesn't that say a little bit of something about?
Maybe they're preparing us. Maybe they're preparing us for the big announcement.
Oh, or on the internet, people think the Earth is flat and there's going to be 2 suns and the sky is just a projection, and that's going to fall down, and we're going to find out.
Tatooine. That's Tatooine.
Yikes. Well, I don't know. I do think it is kind of fun and interesting, and we need a little something that's fun and
it's
interesting.
a good diversionary, good diversion.
It's a good diversion.
Yeah.
And it does whip up, it brings the internet to the sphere of like believable, actual phenomenon that are important. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand why they would do this. Like, the internet is always talking about aliens. I don't know. Maybe I'm on the wrong spot. But I like to see on YouTube, they're always there.
Yeah.
There is this whole world, usually attached to the far right or even the far left, if there's some of the far left.
Just far out there.
Fars. Yeah, I don't know. That's my take, is that at least it's semi-interesting. Hey, I've been listening to your show.
It's a pretty low bar. At least it's
not completely fucking depressing is what it is. And that's why I can follow it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Everything is depressing.
Oh God.
It's fun.
All right.
To talk about aliens.
I've been listening to your podcast. We've got issues. I do encourage everybody to go out and do that. The one you did about abortion recently was
depressing.
Yes.
Yeah, the show's always depressing.
I know, but funny depressing. You do bring up
I try to be funny and depressing at the same time. That's the
That's
tightrope I'm walking.
That is the whole point of this particular show and everything I've done, which is
funny
to
and
educate
depressing.
without making you want to kill yourself.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder.
I mean, here's a weird thought that comforts you. People have lived under authoritarian regimes for years. We're gonna be okay.
We'll be
that's like where we got to. Fuck. Josh Holland, we've got issues. Don't forget to go check it out on Apple Podcasts. No problem too big or too small to deal with. What's coming up on the next episode?
We're discussing the latest massacre by a white supremacist, and trying to put that into some context.
When does it come out? Because there might be another massacre.
It comes out tomorrow morning.
All right.
We're gonna try to beat the next one.
I don't want to make a joke.
And then we're going to talk about how the media is flubbing the coverage of inflation.
Oh, yay.
Doing a terrible job on that. Yeah, it's going to be a depressing show.
That sounds great. I look forward to it. Josh Holland, thank you very much. I always appreciate you coming on, because it's like, as depressing as it is, we're at least having a good time.
Yeah, at least that. Thanks so much for having me, Juliana. I'll have my laptop fixed by next time.
Okay, great. Okay, see you then. Thanks so much, Josh.
Bye.
Bye. You guys are watching act.tv. Wasn't that fun? Did I promise you a good time? Raise your hand in the comments section if you think I should have Josh on more often. And if you have other guests that you want me to have on, you can put those down there too. I can't wait to go listen to his show about how they're flubbing the inflation discussion. And it made me want to go have that same discussion with our friend Dean Baker, who used to come on the show a lot and who said he'd be still happy to come on if I have space, which I do. So we're going to call him, have him on. I also have Seth Shostak, as I said earlier, coming up from the SETI Institute to talk about the aliens. He actually knows something about this. This is his whole life, and he's a fun guy to talk to as well. We have an interview coming up in the next couple of weeks with Professor Richard Wolff, who we often have on this program. And he's going to give us sort of this, it's more of an overview of neoliberalism and has it run its course. That was a very interesting conversation to have with him. All that and more coming up on actTV's Act Now. If you're new here, please put the bookmark or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and come back soon. And we are on Apple TV. We're on Roku. We are on across platforms on actTV. And you can find me at Julianna Forlano. It uses all of the vowels in the alphabet in the name, except for Y, on Twitter, Julianna Forlano. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.